Hey folks, this is Yuri Karasawa, 12 NPB teams in 12 days, and we are finishing up the Central League with the Yomiuri Giants, the defending pennant winners last year, going 77, 59, and 7. This was their best season since 2020. They had missed the playoffs multiple years in a row, but Shinnosuke Abe comes along, legendary franchise catcher, and he was able to right the ship and get them back into the postseason. However, they did end up losing to the DNA Baystars in the League Championship Series. So despite finishing in first during the regular season, they were not able to reach their ultimate goal of the Japan Series. 104 OPS plus and 118 ERA plus as a team. 100 is league average. So they were very good in both, but dare I say they underperformed relative to their talent level in the offensive domain. Pitching was obviously excellent though, and their defense was actually among the best in the league as well, with 16 defensive runs saved. What did they do over the offseason? Well, they were very active. They were the most active team of any in NPB this winter. The big one was bringing in Rydell Martinez from the Chunichi Dragons, probably the best closer in NPB over the past half decade. Just an absolute shutdown arm, and a Cuban as well. So even if he has MLB aspirations, given U.S.-Cuba relations, it's quite difficult for him to ever go to MLB. And so a guy that might just stick around and play in NPB his entire career. So what a huge pickup there. Masahiro Tanaka, veteran, the former New York Yankee, coming off some really rough years with the Rakuten Eagles, but they're giving him one last chance basically to see if he has anything left in the tank. Eito Tanaka, another Tanaka coming over from the Nippon Ham Fighters in the active player draft. Pretty standard depth piece there. Don't expect too much from him. Takuya Kai of the SoftBank Hawks, very successful run with them. Many championships in there. He's always been regarded as very good defensively with that cannon arm, and he also improved his framing last year as well. That's a point that many people have taken issue with in the past, and his offense has gotten a little bit better as well. So a little bit on the older end now, but definitely, a big addition to the team. And then Trey Cabbage, who spent last year in the Houston Astros system. Not too much MLB experience, but NPB teams have been interested in him for a while. He is kind of this dual threat, power and speed. So if he clicks, he's definitely going to provide a spark. Subtractions, Tomoyuki Sugano, obviously that is a ginormous loss. He goes to the Baltimore Orioles on a 1-year, $13 million contract, age 35 season for him, so it kind of looked like he might just end up finishing his career with the Giants, but he wins his third career MVP last year, has this kind of renaissance after a couple of injury-riddled seasons, and he was obviously phenomenal, so basically an irreplaceable presence there at the top of the rotation. Other guys, Yohander Mendez, Coco Montez, a couple of foreigners are no longer with them. And then some depth pieces in the outfield like Hajitani and Tateoka have retired. 2024 NPB Draft, they went for Yumito Kanemaru like many other teams did with their first selection, but they lost the lottery. And then they pivoted to a prep shortstop in Yusei Ishizuka. Not going to help them in 2025, but 2-3 years down the line, I think this guy's going to be really great. Nice pure hitter and, very fast, good defensively. So nice pickup for them there. And then Shunsuke Urata in the second round may immediately be able to provide a little bit of middle infield depth kind of as a backup. 2024 hitting leaders, Kazuma Okamoto leads the way. He is the superstar on this team. Almost always posts as well, so he's an Iron Man. 37 doubles, 27 home runs last year, which did end his stretch of 6 consecutive seasons with 30-plus bombs. Really kind of unfortunate that the dead balls took that away from him because I think overall, this was still an incredible season for him, a 167 OPS plus. Elier Hernandez, who came over a couple months into the year after Rufned Odor was initially the, supposed to be the import outfielder. He leaves the team after spring training, and so they had to kind of pivot to Hernandez midway through, and he was fantastic. Did end up getting hurt, so only 56 games, but a 146 OPS plus, and pretty solid defense as well in corner outfield. They kind of forced him into center a little bit where he's not as good, but really quality addition there. And Yoshihiro Maru, former MVP with the Hiroshima Carp. He is on the tail end of his career now, but this is a future Hall of Famer who is still doing a really nice job. The power is starting to fade, but he is still hitting and getting on base. Naoki Yoshikawa, this was a career year for him. He can run, and his defense is absolutely phenomenal there at second base. Arguably the best defensive infielder in all of Japan. 123 OPS plus on top of it. So just a really great, well-rounded player. Doesn't strike out much. Does a lot of things well. And we saw the impact of him not being there in the postseason. They ended up getting eliminated. Other ones include guys like, Luis Okoye, Shogo Asano, some outfield depth pieces. Asano is one of their top prospects, incredibly young. Maybe next year he's going to be really good. Takumi Oshiro and Yukinori Kishida were splitting time behind the plate last year. Abe didn't really seem to be a huge fan of Oshiro's game, which is a little bit odd because he's excellent defensively and he can hit, so a great two-way catcher in my opinion, but he was starting to give preference to Kishida, who's younger, and now they've brought in Taki Akai, so they do have like this three-way carousel there behind the plate that gives them a ton of depth. But we'll see what happens in terms of Oshiro, whether he's going to play more catcher, more first base, or what. Hayato Sakamoto, probably the best shortstop in NPB history at this point, is playing third base. This was one of the worst years of his career. Only a 613 OPS, which is a 90 OPS plus. Just was not a great year for him in terms of the hitting. Very inconsistent, and very much unlike what we've seen from him for the last 10, 15 years of his career. But I think in his second year fully transitioning to third base, he should be able to do a slightly better job. 2024 pitching leaders, Sugano going 15-3 with a 1.67 ERA, was a big part of them winning the pennant. Shosei Togo, though, he is the young ace, absolute workhorse. He's given them like 170 to 180 innings a year. Still only 24 years old. A sub-2 ERA last year, good for a 1.50 ERA plus. Solid strikeout numbers as well. Then you do have to go down a little bit lower on this list until you get to the next starting pitcher, which is Haruto Inoue, young southpaw who I think has a ton of upside. Foster Griffin, the surface level results were not great. It was a 97 ERA plus, so below average. But if I could direct you to the K-BB percentage, they're at 22%. That led all of NPB for pitchers with at least 110 innings. So, even better than guys like Roki Sasaki. I definitely think Griffin underperformed his peripherals, and I believe he is elite. Yuri Yamasaki, a bit more pitch to contact, but he's fine in the back end of the rotation. And then they got a couple other guys like Yuji Akahoshi, who can, eat some innings there as a swingman. Yuhi Nishidate, one of their top prospects last year, also getting a look as a starter, although he was mostly used as a reliever, so we'll see if he can establish himself in the rotation this year. Bullpen was a big issue for this team 2 to 3 years ago, but 2024, it took a big step in the right direction, and a major part of that is having Taisei healthy in the 9th inning. Now, they've brought in Rydel Martinez, so Taisei might get relegated to the 8th inning, but that's just a crazy 1-2 punch. Taisei last year was hands down the best relief pitcher in NPB. Just absolutely gaudy stuff. You see the 33.5% strikeout rate and the 0.88 ERA. Some of the foreigners there, Kyle Keller, Alberto Baldonado, they throw hard. They can really generate a lot of swing and miss. And then, they have some other solid relievers thrown in there as well. So how do they look for 2025? Like I said, catcher, they have a ton of depth now. This is obviously the best catching core in NPB. Kai Kishida Oshiro, And then first base, I think can also, they can throw a bunch of different guys there and kind of rotate it if they really want. Kazuma Okamoto can play third base and left field as well, but they seem to prefer him at first. Wherever you put him is fine as long as you can get that bat in the lineup. Naoki Yoshikawa and Makoto Kadawaki on the middle infield. That is arguably the best double play duo in NPB. Just absolutely stud defenders. Kadawaki hasn't really shown much in the way of the bat, but I think if he takes, a small step forward, gets a little more consistent, he can become like this generation's version of a Sosuke Genda, because he is a special defender, just super athletic, and makes some crazy highlight reel plays that look impossible at times. Sakamoto there at third. You keep plugging him in and expect a bounce back season for him, but otherwise, maybe he takes a step in the wrong direction again and keeps getting worse, in which case you may have to consider putting Okamoto back there, and then Oshiro can step up and be the first baseman. Outfield right now, I have it as Cabbage, Hernandez, and Maru. The big question mark there, I think, is Cabbage. Anytime a first-year foreigner is coming to NPB, you have to, give them, I would say, about a month to see if they're going to be able to adjust. Some guys never do. If he struggles, then they have some depth pieces like Asano and Okoye, as well as Masaya Hagio, all these kind of younger guys. Yuto Akihiro, who is nicknamed Shin Godzilla. They have a lot of these kind of like next up-and-coming guys that haven't quite, broken out yet at the NPB level, but have shown a lot of promise. So, they're definitely going to be gunning for that spot should Cabbage falter. Hernandez in center field, I don't think is great, but, you can live with it as long as he's hitting. And then Yoshihiro Maru, who was at one point an elite center fielder, at this point, kind of a slightly below average defensive right fielder. But, offensively, this team is excellent. And, on the infield, they have some great defense. Outfield, not that much, but I think you're okay with that. The rotation, spearheaded by Shosei Togo and Foster Griffin. No Sugano there. That is a blow, but they have some guys that can make up for that. So I think Haruto Inoue can keep getting better. Iori Yamasaki, like I said, is a solid guy in the back of the rotation. Nothing too special, but gets the job done most of the time. Yuhi Nishidate, hard thrower. I think he can continue to improve as well. Masahiro Tanaka, I think he will end up making the opening day rotation. So see what he can do over, the first month or so of the season, and then reevaluate. Obviously, if you kind of get a, throwback from him in a similar way that Sugano gave you, then wow, this rotation is absolutely stacked. A couple of other guys like Kai Yokogawa also may get some spot starts here and there. The bullpen also, Rydell Martinez and Taisei, that is absolutely devastating for opposing lineups. Like, if you are down going into the 8th inning, then forget about it. This might be the best 1-2 punch in the back end of the bullpen ever in NPB history. Some of the most high-octane arms you're ever going to see. Hiromasa Funabasama actually won the Rookie of the Year last year as well as a middle relief pitcher. It was, to be fair, a weaker Rookie of the Year class, but still, that is impressive. And then some of the other guys I mentioned before, like Baldonado, Keller, and Takanashi, I think are solid, especially if they are taking on lower leverage roles now. I think those guys can have a little bit of issues in terms of command if you put them in too many high pressure situations. But now, if Martinez and Taisei are there to kind of lock things down, then you're feeling really good. And if one of them get hurt, then obviously you can just throw the other guy into the 9th inning. So Yomiuri Giants, not only are they the Central League pennant favorites, they are obviously trying to win the Japan series this year. It seems like they were very much not content with their finish last year, and that's why they went out and had a pretty noisy off-season. So what will 2025 bring for the New York Yankees of the East? We'll have to wait and see.